Welcome to the Market Mystics podcast, where we discuss what's happening in the cryptosphere and trading on Earth as it is in heaven. Buckle up and huddle on while we dive in and get weird. Here are your hosts, Joshua and Kim.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mystic Monday, the first Mystic Monday of season 2. Who knows? Who knows what this year is going to look like? Kim and I are still, we've officially started season 2, but we are still sort of playing around with exactly how it's going to land. So for now, you get kind of this intermediate place of not exactly knowing and it looking a little bit like season 1 and a little bit different than season 1. And it'll probably continue, but we will find the flow. We will find exactly where we want that to land. We're just not quite there yet. So, Kim, you have any thoughts and things that are bubbling up for Mystic Monday season 2?
Yes, we have so much to talk about. Last week, we did this challenge with one of our former guests, Mark Wilburn, who is amazing dude, has a huge anointing. The stuff he was teaching on was just fantastic, and it was landing kind of in a different way than I've ever had that kind of stuff land before. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And you know what? Before we get started, I'm just going to start a little bit of a conversation. We started to have this conversation. I'm just going to bring it here. I have to leave shortly because I need to go get some blood work done. And I was telling Josh, I kind of get a little bit weird about getting blood work done, mostly since, I don't know, a few years ago, like in my journey, I feel like, okay, I'm just going to get real weird. Just bear with me. Okay. So in part of my journey, I went through this whole transition of like still having separation between myself and the Lord. So I went through this whole process of every time I was engaging or pressing in or praying, whatever you call it, I was coming into union with Yeshua, and we became one. And like, I remember having this time of like stepping into him, and like I became him and he became me. And like, there was no difference, right? This was in the spirit. And and then communion really changed after that for me. Like it was, I had said it before and I had the concept before, but after that moment, it really changed into taking his body on his mind, taking his blood on his mind. And so then since then, I've been really weird about getting blood work done because I wonder if it's going to look completely different. You know what I mean? Than it did before. And I feel like it's precious. Like, not something to just, I don't know, give out willy-nilly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how to say that. But on the other hand, Josh brought up one of his favorite phrases and had a different point of view on this.
Yeah. So one of my favorite phrases is words create worlds. And it's been something that I've said for a few years now, and I've seen the impact that it has on my life. And within the communities that Kim and I are a part of, I would say it's becoming a really key thing. Like what you speak over yourself, the emotion that you're feeling while you're speaking it. Like these things are becoming key and important and something to pay attention to. And so I was just telling her, I was like, I think annual blood work is a great opportunity to see how real words create worlds can be.
Mm-hmm.
And, like you had that experience with Yeshua in the spirit where you're coming into this oneness, but there still is a there still is a bringing that to earth, like on earth as it is in heaven. Like you saw the as it is in heaven,
Mm-hmm.
and I think now is our opportunity to pull that down into the on earth part. And I think we see that a lot of where there's, we see things in the spirit and we're like, oh, this is how it should be and it's amazing. But sometimes we forget the practical steps of bringing that down and changing this because we were born into this dimension, into this world to change it, to
Mm-hmm.
terraform it, to change the landscape of how it is. And I think it starts with learning to govern yourself. And then as you become an excellent governor of yourself, you're given more territory and you can influence the area around you. But, as part of that, like I I was telling Kim, like, I think it would be kind of a fun challenge to get annual blood work done, to get annual DNA testing done, and see if you can physically change some of your markers. Because
Mm-hmm.
through I just think that I think we have the power to do that. I think we have the power to do that. And it is just a kind of a game, like playing around, practicing, figuring out like what it takes to do that. But I think it's possible. And through like words create worlds, like, I think this is the interesting part of it. Like, I can sit here and eat fast food all day long and say, I am a Olympic athlete, blah, blah, blah. But there's a disconnect there between your words and every other part of your body.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we are learning is to come into oneness with ourself so that as we speak our identity out, we are feeling what it would feel like to be an Olympic athlete. We're putting ourselves in that place, we're immersing ourselves into that role, and then we are we're speaking that life out. And I think that that's the difference. It's not just about what you say, it's about saying it through a place of oneness and union with Yahweh. And I think that that's a big difference. And as you start to speak things in oneness, your behavior will start to change to come into alignment. And so if you want to learn to run, you know, 10 miles, as you start to speak those things from a place of oneness, I think your body, like you'll be drawn to start running. You'll be drawn to start doing these things. You'll have these opportunities to bring them into real life. And so it isn't just that you say it and magically these things appear. Sometimes possibly that's true. But I think often it is you're creating this intention, this emotion that leads you to real life changes. And as you're consistent with it, you will look back and be like, oh, wow, like that's what was happening. That's what my blood work looked like 5 years ago. That's what my DNA looked like 5 years ago. Like, I really think that we have the capacity to change these things. And so you can look at annual blood work as a boundary of, oh, this is what I have to work with. Or you can look at it as this is where I get to start from.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be either way. But I just, we were talking about it. I was like, I think it could be a fun game. Like, and I think everything we're doing in the spirit needs to be wrapped in fun and joy and laughter. And yes, there will be tears and not as, enjoyable times, but like, I think we should make like practicing these things a game because that's how we learn. And that's how we learn to do things. Like, you think of it as a child, and every child loves to dream and imagine and play. And that's what we need to learn to be like as adults.
I like the concept. I really do. And I feel like it's a good reminder. This is why it's good to have a friend like Josh. Okay. is because sometimes you get the reminders of the things that you already know. Like I know that one of our principles for what we're supposed to do with the podcast, as well as, I mean, and within the scope of our business, is we're supposed to bring some of these principles, but keep fun in it. Like
Yeah.
there's enjoyment. Like this should not be a drag. This should not be something that you get up and you have to do. But when you have this mindset and you have this posture of enjoyment, you will be amazed at how things shift for you. Okay. So I really like the reminder, but I'm going to bring it back to some of the stuff that we talked about last week in this challenge that we did with Mark. And I think it goes right along with it. One of the things that he was talking about, I'm amazed at how simple he made the concept of manifestation from heaven to earth. Okay. It's very practical. So this is what he said. He said, as you speak something out, you set up spiritual structures for it to manifest. So everything first comes as thought, then as word, then as a visible reality. So I have often gotten caught up in, and I would even say this with my blood work, like going back to that whole concept. I've gotten caught up in this has happened. I live a lot in my brain. Like that's where I live. It's happened. I will mull over it. I will think on it. I will chew on it, all those things. But it doesn't always come out as word. So I don't always share it. But there's real significance and there's real power in the words that you speak out. It's all over scripture. There's power of life and death in the tongue, right?
Yeah. As
So
a
if
man
there's,
thinketh, so he is.
yes.
Yeah.
So if there's something that's life-giving and that is a truth that you're getting from the Lord, to speak it out is actually setting up structure for it to be able to manifest into this realm. So it's a good reminder for me to actually speak those kinds of things out. So I don't know if it'll be on the podcast. I don't know if it'll be a personal relationship. It might be a mix of all of it. But I'm going to try to start with that kind of action item. You know what I mean? And so I do think it's a good idea to use this as, it's almost like on the roadmap of your life or on a journey. Like here are the little pit stops. So let's take a look at the blood work in a year and see if it's changed. And they're just kind of markers and you can measure it and see how it's manifesting. And I think it's such an important concept to realize, and that there's action that comes with it. Like, I think we've all gotten so stuck in this, like, here's this experience and it's great. And you just sit back and enjoy the experience, but then nothing happens because you don't actually do anything with it. So there's also something in the action.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you were saying about, it's, it's this thought, this intention, and then it's this word, and then it's something physical. And how you're tying that into the end of like the action of it, like it is oh, I want this in my life. I speak that into my life. I do that in my life, and it becomes my reality of what it is. I heard someone recently propose the idea that there must have been a point in time where God imagined you. There must have been a seed of intention somewhere where Yahweh goes, "Oh, I want to make Kim." And he starts dreaming about the life that she's going to live and what that's going to look like and how, all these different aspects, who she is and what she'll do. And just like we create anything, like, there's someone who I've heard people say, like, you can look around the room and everything in the room was first imagined by someone before it was created. And if that is true of how we are created, it's likely true of how Yahweh creates. And so, this idea that at one point you were an intention that was wrapped in this thought and a dream of God of, oh, this is how I want to create. And then he spoke that into life. And then you were birthed into this reality. And then you step into that and you walk that out and you live that life. Like, I think that's a great picture of what you're talking about and how we're called to create. Like, we have this intention, this thought, we speak it, and then it begins to manifest and we outwork it and it comes to life and it lives its identity, but I think it can be done very intentionally. And I think that's the challenge that we now face is, are these things going to stay conceptual, or are we going to actually do the work?
Mhm. Are we gonna bring it into reality,
Yeah.
right? And I think it's really important to be wildly intentional about it. Because again, there's a lot of power in the words that you speak.
Mhm.
And I think this goes into kind of the next point of being really careful. This was also from this challenge. You guys should reach out if you want to know what it is, because it really was great. Um, there's a lot of power in I am statements.
Mhm.
So when you say I am whatever you say about yourself, right? Because it taps into the core of who Yahweh is. Essentially, you're calling on him and to define a part of you, right? So you're making that connection, and there's a lot of power in that. And you're essentially stepping into being a co-creator with him when you say these things. And so it is really important to be careful, but it's also really important to speak out the truths about who he says you are. So as
Mhm.
you learn more about who you are made to be, how you're made to be, how you're made to function, and you get that through relationship with him, it's important to speak it out. Again, if it always just stays in your mind, it will exist in those spiritual experiences, but
Mhm.
the likelihood of it manifesting out is far less, I would say,
Yeah,
right? Like,
I
are
agree.
you building the structure for it to land? And then on the other hand, if you're having a bad day and you mess up or you trip down or trip on nothing on the sidewalk, I mean, I've done that before, right?
Mhm.
And you say things like, I am a XYZ. I'm not even going to say it because I'm not going to build a structure, right?
Mhm.
But you say something negative about yourself, you're building the structure for yourself to be that.
Mhm.
And so, again, you got to be really careful with what you're doing. Make sure that what you're speaking is life into the identity of who you're made to be, and not life into the lies of what someone else is whispering in your ear.
Yeah. I've heard that called evidence stacking.
Oh,
And so in any situation you're in, um, like just in your normal day-to-day life, there will be opportunities to stack evidence towards a belief.
hmm
And so you will have the opportunity to stack evidence towards a negative aspect that you see or have felt or have experienced, or you will have evidence to stack towards something else, something you're creating a better life, better thought pattern, whatever. But the opportunity will exist in your day-to-day life, or not always day-to-day, but maybe even weekly life, to gather evidence for whatever piece you want. And so if you have a mindset of a lack mindset, you will continually have opportunities to stack evidence where you experience lack. But at the same time, you would have opportunity to stack experiences for abundance.
mm,
And it isn't that they both don't exist, but it's where are you putting your focus? You don't have to ignore and say, oh man, like, I didn't pay my electric bill, but I still walk in abundance. Like, no, you can, like, it is good to acknowledge what's going on in your life, but looking where to put your focus, like, there would be opportunities like maybe I wasn't able to pay my electric bill, Maybe I have abundance because I have a friend who allowed me to come to their house to spend the night, and that's abundance. Like, even in the worst situations, I think there is opportunity to stack evidence towards what you want to build, and not at the cost of ignoring what's actually happening in your life, but
Mhm.
to to put your focus and your intention in one place or another.
I think that's it exactly. So, um, I don't think that lack and abundance, like only one can be present at any certain moment.
Mm,
It's just a matter of what you pay attention to, just like what you were saying.
mhm,
And what are you speaking out? Those words are creating worlds, right?
mm.
This is why he says it all the time. I assume this is why you say it all the time. Also, by the way, I know that this is a quote by somebody else, but the first time I ever heard it was from Josh Brummer. So to me, it is a Joshua Brummer quote.
It is a concept that I took from one and multiple people and rephrased into something for me.
I like it. I attribute
Yeah.
it to you. It's always been something that you have spoken out since the day I met you.
Yeah.
There's another one too. But I'm not going to talk about that one today.
Okay. We'll
We do
save that
bonus
for another
content.
one.
We'll talk about your other one.
That's right.
That's what we need to do. But truly, like, so we look at this like lack and abundance, they're coexisting, right? What are you putting your attention to? And your words are going to create that world. And so it's really about honing in on who are you truly? Who are you made to be? And what are you wanting to walk? And actually paying attention to that, speaking out the truths that are behind that, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really important to bring your whole self into alignment in this process. Like, be intentional about what you speak. Be intentional about anything that follows the words I am. Be intentional about what you're speaking over your life. Be intentional about the evidence that you're stacking. Be intentional about the actions you are taking, because all of those things work together to create a whole identity, a whole world. And you can, like, it doesn't mean that bad things won't happen to you or challenging situations don't arise. Like, it doesn't mean that at all, but it does change the way you walk through them and where you end up on the other side.
Right. Right. That's good. Just really quickly, I'll tell you one area that I'm trying to work on. Um, this is a family trait, and it's not a great one, but I apologize for everything. Like somebody runs into me at the grocery store, they could like plow me over and I'd be like, I'm so sorry. you know, I'm constantly apologizing for everything, which I don't think in itself is horrible, except I'm constantly saying, I am sorry,
Mm.
which is speaking out that I am full of sorrow. And I'm making that, like, I'm creating that world with my words. And I found myself, even before this challenge last week, I found myself feeling like I need to shift to offering apologies without making the I am statement.
Mm.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And I I don't know where it's going. I don't know what it looks like to not be full of sorrow, apparently. It makes me sound like I'm a really sad person, but I
Mhm.
think there is a spiritual truth in this. Like, why would I be convicted? Like, why would I be kind of being nudged in that way, except to adjust something?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So maybe just tune in, listen to see where are you being nudged. Like, you don't have to change everything all at once. That's not anything at all what we're saying, but there may be some shifts that you take, like just slight ones, like giving apologies instead of saying you're sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
No, I think that's great. It's a subtle shift, but it's shifting it from being an identity to an action.
yeah. Yeah. It's true. Also, I feel like some people who are listening to this might think, well, I don't know who I'm made to be.
Mm.
I don't have all that information. I haven't gotten that far. So then what do I do? Start with something basic.
Mhm.
I am a son. I am favored. I am loved. And as you do that, and you can meditate on this, you can spend some time focusing on the Lord and repeating back to him what he's said about you, even general truths like that. I am
Mm.
loved by you. I am loved by you. I am loved by you.
Mm.
And be sure to also just tune your ear, like allow him to speak back to you what he says, like what he thinks about you as well. You know what I mean? And if you need help with that, I mean, honestly, we're called to this stuff. It is my passion to have people learn their God-given identity so that they can start walking it out.
Yeah.
So I guess if you need something, reach out, because this is who we are.
Mhm.
Here's an I am statement for the
Yeah.
two of us.
Right.
I am made to help people realize their identities.
Mm.
So if you need help, let us know.
So good. Yeah, you can reach out on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, wherever. Or you can find out more information at upperroomcd.com. And if you would like to, you can also book appointments with us there. And we're happy to walk through some of this with you guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining today, guys. We'll see you on Thursday.
See ya.
Thank you for listening. Join us every Monday and Thursday as we discuss trading on earth as it is in heaven. If you want to connect further, follow us on social media at market.mystics for Instagram and TikTok, and search for Market Mystics on YouTube and Facebook. If you still need more, follow the link on Facebook to book a coaching appointment. Until next time, see ya.